Savannah Calloway, 34, stared at her phone in disbelief as the text from her mother arrived. "We've decided to have a smaller Christmas this year, just immediate family." Immediate family that somehow excluded her but included her brother's new wife of 6 months. After 15 years of enduring their subtle rejection, something inside Savannah finally snapped. She glanced around her sprawling ranch, the one asset her late grandmother had left exclusively to her, and made a decision that would fracture her family forever. Before I dive into what happened next, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comments below. If you enjoy family revenge drama like this one, hit that like button and subscribe to see more stories about karma coming full circle. Trust me, you'll want to see how Savannah turned her parents' rejection into the sweetest revenge. Growing up in the affluent suburb of Oak Ridge, Connecticut, Savannah had always felt like an afterthought in the Calloway family. Her parents, Richard and Eleanor, were pillars of the community. He, a prominent cardiac surgeon. She, the chairwoman of multiple charity boards. They had meticulously crafted an image of the perfect American family, but behind closed doors the dynamic was starkly different. From her earliest memories, Savannah noticed the disparity in how her parents treated her compared to her younger brother Travis. When she brought home straight A's, her report card would be acknowledged with a brief, "Good job, honey," before conversation shifted to Travis's latest baseball victory. Her piano recitals were attended out of obligation, while the entire family schedule revolved around Travis's sporting events. "You're just so self-sufficient, sweetie," her mother would say, whenever Savannah pointed out the difference in attention. "Travis needs more guidance." By age 12, Savannah had internalized a painful truth: she was secondary in her parents' affections. She developed coping mechanisms, excelling academically, cultivating independence, and forging a special bond with her grandmother Abigail. Her father's mother lived on a sprawling ranch 2 hours away, and those weekend visits became Savannah's sanctuary. Grandmother Abigail saw what was happening in the family dynamic. "Your parents don't see your light, my darling," she would tell Savannah, while they baked cookies in her farmhouse kitchen. "Sometimes people are blinded by their own expectations. You're extraordinary, exactly as you are." Under Abigail's nurturing, Savannah flourished. The ranch became her second home, a place where she could breathe freely and be appreciated for who she was. She learned to ride horses, tend to the garden, and manage the finances of running the property. Abigail taught her the value of self-reliance but also the importance of knowing her worth. "Never beg for a place at anyone's table," Abigail would say. "Build your own table and invite those who truly see you." During her teen years, the disparity grew more pronounced. When Travis crashed the family car at 16, her parents hired him a lawyer and bought a replacement vehicle within a week. When Savannah needed help with college applications, she was told to figure it out herself, "because you've always been so independent." The pattern continued through college. While Travis attended his father's alma mater with a generous parental allowance, despite mediocre grades, Savannah won a full scholarship to Cornell, but still worked part-time jobs to cover her living expenses. Her achievements were mentioned in passing at family gatherings, while Travis's every minor accomplishment was celebrated lavishly. After graduation, Savannah moved to New York and built a successful career in architectural restoration. She would return home for holidays and family events each time, hoping things would be different, each time leaving with the same hollow feeling in her chest. "You seem to be doing well enough without our help," her father would say whenever she tried to discuss the inequality. "We're proud of how independent you've become." That independence became both her armor and her prison. She learned to expect nothing, to need nothing, all while maintaining the facade of the dutiful daughter who understood her place in the family hierarchy. The only person who truly valued her was grandmother Abigail. On Savannah's 30th birthday, as they sat on the porch of the ranch watching the sunset, Abigail took her hand. "I've watched how they've treated you all these years," she said. And I want you to know that I see you, Savannah. I always have. 2 months later, Abigail passed away peacefully in her sleep. The family gathered for the funeral, where Travis delivered a tearful eulogy despite having visited his grandmother perhaps twice a year. Savannah sat silently, her grief too profound for public display. The reading of the will a week later sent shockwaves through the Calloway family. Abigail had left the ranch, worth nearly $5 million with its 200 acres of prime land, solely to Savannah. Travis received a modest cash inheritance, while Richard was left with only his mother's wedding ring and a note that simply read, "You know why." There must be some mistake, Eleanor had sputtered, her face flushed with indignation. Abigail wouldn't leave the family property to just one grandchild. But the lawyer had been clear. Mrs. Calloway was of sound mind and very specific in her instructions. The ranch belongs to Savannah without conditions or restrictions. The fallout was immediate. Richard accused Savannah of manipulating his mother. Eleanor suggested they contest the will for the sake of family fairness. Travis barely spoke to her at all. Savannah stood firm. "This was grandmother's decision," she said. "I won't apologize for being loved by her." For 4 years following the inheritance, family gatherings became increasingly tense affairs. Her parents would make pointed comments about family legacy and sharing wealth. Travis and his new wife Meredith would openly discuss how they could put the ranch to better use if it were theirs. Savannah weathered it all, still showing up, still hoping for acceptance that never came. She renovated the ranch, preserving its charm while modernizing its facilities. She started a small but successful horse therapy program for children with special needs. She built the life her grandmother had envisioned for her. Independent, purposeful, and fulfilling. And still, she would drive to her parents' home for Thanksgiving, for Easter, for Christmas, carrying dishes of food and carefully selected gifts, only to be treated as an outsider at her own family table. Until that text message arrived 3 weeks before Christmas, changing everything. The text from Eleanor had come on a Tuesday morning while Savannah was reviewing architectural plans for a new stable. "We've decided to have a smaller Christmas this year. Just immediate family. Hope you understand. Love, Mom." Savannah read it again, trying to parse the meaning. Immediate family had always included her. She called her mother immediately, her heart racing. "Mom, I just got your text. What do you mean by immediate family?" There was a pause before Eleanor responded. "Oh, honey. Well, it's just that we wanted something more intimate this year, just your father and I, Travis and Meredith. And I'm not considered immediate family." Savannah's voice was steady, despite the hurt blooming in her chest. "Don't be dramatic, Savannah. You know what I mean. Travis and Meredith are newlyweds and we want to establish some new traditions. Plus, they've been talking about starting a family soon. It just makes sense." "I see." Savannah gripped the phone tighter. "And this decision was made by everyone." Another pause. "We all agreed it would be nice to keep it small this year." That evening, Savannah called her brother. Travis sounded uncomfortable from the moment he answered. "Hey, I just wanted to check in about Christmas," Savannah began. "Mom told me she texted you," Travis replied, his tone defensive. "Look, it's nothing personal. Meredith and I have been talking about having a baby, and Mom and Dad are really excited about the possibility of becoming grandparents. It just made sense to keep things simple this year. So I'm not invited to Christmas because Meredith might be pregnant sometime in the future." Savannah couldn't keep the incredulity from her voice. "That's not it exactly," Travis hedged. "It's just Meredith feels that family holidays should be more traditional. You know, parents and their children. And since you're always so busy with the ranch and your career." "I see," Savannah said again, though. What she was seeing more clearly than ever was the truth of her position in the family. "And you were all part of this decision. To exclude me." "Don't say exclude, Sav. That sounds so harsh. We're just doing something different this year." After hanging up, Savannah sat on her porch watching the snow fall gently across the ranch. The property was magnificent in winter. Rolling hills blanketed in pristine white, the frozen pond, reflecting the moonlight. The cozy main house with its massive stone fireplace and cathedral ceilings. It was a home meant for family gatherings, for laughter and warmth. Her grandmother's words echoed in her mind. Never beg for a place at anyone's table. Build your own table and invite those who truly see you. The next day she called her cousin Diane, her father's sister's daughter, with whom she'd always been close, though they didn't see each other often. "Can you believe they're excluding me from Christmas?" Savannah asked, after explaining the situation. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Savannah, I don't know how to tell you this, but we all got invitations to their house for Christmas Eve dinner. A formal dinner party. Your mom sent out embossed cards last week." Savannah felt as if she'd been doused with ice water. "What I assumed you knew. It's a big family gathering, all the cousins, aunts, uncles. Everyone's going." "Everyone, except me," Savannah said quietly. That night she pored through old photo albums, searching for evidence that she had somehow misremembered her childhood. But there it was, documented in countless photos. Travis front and center, Savannah on the periphery. Travis blowing out birthday candles while their parents beamed, Savannah in the background. Family vacation photos where she seemed almost an afterthought. She came across a picture from her high school graduation. While her friends' parents had thrown parties and given meaningful gifts, her parents had attended the ceremony and then left immediately for Travis's baseball tournament in another state. In the photo, she stood alone in her cap and gown, her diploma in hand, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. The next morning she received an email from Meredith with the subject line, "Christmas Gift Exchange." It detailed a secret Santa arrangement for the family gathering, with everyone's names included, except Savannah's. It was the final straw. She picked up her phone and called her mother. "I just wanted to clarify something. You're having a small, intimate Christmas that includes the entire extended family except me." Eleanor's response was defensive. "Savannah, you're making this about you when it's not. Yes, we decided to have a family gathering for Christmas Eve, but Christmas Day is just for us. Me, your father, Travis, and Meredith. And I'm not us," Savannah stated. "Oh, for heaven's sake," Eleanor sighed. "You've always been so independent. You have that enormous ranch all to yourself. We thought you'd appreciate having your own space for the holidays, instead of squeezing into the guest room here." "I see." It was becoming her mantra. "Thank you for clarifying." That afternoon, Savannah sat at her grandmother's antique desk and made a decision. She opened her laptop and created a digital invitation. In elegant font it read, "Join Savannah Calloway for a Christmas celebration at Willowbrook Ranch, December 23rd through December 26th. Accommodations, meals, and festivities provided." She sent it to every member of the extended Calloway family except her parents, brother, and sister-in-law. She included all her cousins, aunts, and uncles from both sides of the family. She added a personal note to each one, mentioning how long it had been since they'd connected, and how much she would love to show them the ranch her grandmother had loved so dearly. Then she sent invitations to her closest friends, colleagues, and the families involved in her horse therapy program. She hired a local catering company, arranged for additional temporary housing in luxury yurts on the property, and began planning activities. Horseback riding, sledding, a bonfire cookie, decorating for the children. Within days, the responses began flooding in. To her surprise and delight, nearly everyone accepted. Cousins she hadn't seen in years expressed excitement about reconnecting. Friends eagerly committed to spending the holidays at the ranch. Families from her therapy program responded with grateful enthusiasm. In one bold move, Savannah had created exactly what she'd always wanted: a warm, joyful holiday, surrounded by people who genuinely wanted to be in her company. It wasn't until the first call came that she realized her actions would have consequences far beyond what she had anticipated. The first call came from Aunt Patricia, her father's sister, 3 days after Savannah sent out the invitations. "Savannah, darling, I just wanted to confirm that we're coming to the ranch for Christmas. Martin and I are so looking forward to it. It's been too long since we've had a proper visit." "I'm thrilled you'll be here," Aunt Patricia Savannah replied warmly. There was a pause before Patricia continued, her voice lowered. "I should tell you your father called last night. He was upset that we'd accepted your invitation instead of theirs. He implied we were taking sides in some sort of family dispute." Savannah's grip tightened on the phone. "There's no dispute, Aunt Patricia. I was simply not invited to their Christmas celebration, so I decided to host my own." "That's what I thought," Patricia said. "Well, I told Richard that I've been wanting to see the ranch since Abigail left it to you, and this seemed like the perfect opportunity. Besides, Martin's always wanted to try horseback riding." The next call came from her cousin Jason, her mother's nephew, who had accepted along with his wife and 3 children. "Hey Sav, just checking that your invitation still stands. Aunt Eleanor called Mom in tears last night, saying you were deliberately trying to ruin their Christmas plans by luring everyone away." Savannah felt a flash of anger. "Jason, you and Sarah and the kids are absolutely welcome here. I'm not luring anyone. I sent invitations, people made their choices." "That's what I figured," Jason said. "For what it's worth, we're really looking forward to it. The kids are excited about seeing the horses, and Sarah can't wait to catch up with you." By the end of the week, she had received similar calls from most of the relatives who had accepted her invitation. Each conversation revealed more about how her parents were reacting to her holiday plans. They were calling family members, alternating between guilt-tripping and expressing outrage that their Christmas Eve dinner was being sabotaged. Then came the call from Travis. "What the hell are you doing, Savannah?" he demanded, without preamble. "Mom's upset, Dad's furious, and now we're getting calls from relatives canceling on our Christmas Eve dinner to go to your whatever it is you're hosting." "It's Christmas at the ranch," Travis Savannah replied calmly. "And I'm not doing anything except inviting people I care about to spend the holidays with me." "You know exactly what you're doing," Travis accused. "You're getting back at us for not including you in our Christmas Day plans." "I'm creating my own Christmas traditions," Savannah corrected him. "Just like you and Meredith wanted to do." "This is different and you know it," Travis huffed. "You're deliberately trying to ruin our Christmas Eve dinner." "I didn't realize my absence was so important to the success of your dinner," Savannah replied, "especially since I wasn't invited." The conversation ended with Travis warning that their parents would not let this slide. He was right. The next morning her father called. "Savannah, this childish behavior stops now." Richard Calloway's voice was cold with anger. "Your mother has been planning this Christmas Eve dinner for months. Important people from the community will be there. And now half the family is going to your ranch party instead. I'm sorry if people's choices have disrupted Mom's plans," Savannah said, surprised by her own composure. "But I didn't tell anyone to decline your invitation. You knew exactly what would happen when you sent out those invitations," her father accused. "You've always been jealous of your brother, and now you're trying to sabotage our family Christmas out of spite." The unfairness of his accusations stung, but it also crystallized something for Savannah. "Dad, I've spent my entire life being treated as less important than Travis. I've shown up for every family gathering despite being treated like an afterthought. This year, when I was explicitly excluded from your family Christmas, I decided to create my own celebration with people who actually want me there." "No one excluded you," her father protested. "We simply wanted a smaller gathering on Christmas Day, a smaller gathering that includes every family member except me," Savannah pointed out, "and a larger gathering on Christmas Eve that also explicitly excluded me." There was a long silence before her father spoke again, his voice tightly controlled. "I'll make you a deal. Cancel your event and you can join us for Christmas Day." Savannah almost laughed. So, if I disinvite dozens of people who've already made arrangements to come here, I can earn a grudging invitation to my own family's Christmas. No thank you, Dad. You'll regret this, Savannah, her father warned before hanging up. Her mother's call came that evening, a different tactic altogether. Savannah, honey, Eleanor began, her voice trembling slightly. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Of course we wanted you at our Christmas Eve dinner. I must have forgotten to send your invitation. Mom, please don't do this, Savannah said wearily. You specifically told me you were having a small Christmas with just immediate family. Dad, you, Travis, and Meredith. You can't now pretend I was supposed to be included when I have the texts to prove otherwise. Well, yes, Christmas Day was going to be just the four of us, but you were absolutely supposed to be at Christmas Eve. Eleanor insisted, the lie transparent. Then why did Meredith send out a secret Santa list that included everyone except me? Savannah asked. There was a pause. There must have been some oversight. Mom, I'm not canceling my Christmas at the ranch. People have made arrangements and I'm looking forward to hosting them. But what will people think? Eleanor's voice rose in genuine distress. Half the family choosing your event over ours. The talk, the questions about why you're not with your own parents for Christmas. Have you considered how this makes us look? And there it was. Her mother's true concern. Not Savannah's feelings, not the family bond, but appearances. How it would look to others. The perfect Calloway family image tarnished. I'm sorry that's your concern, Mom, Savannah said honestly. But I'm done prioritizing your public image over my own well-being. As the calls continued over the next few days, from other relatives, from her parents' friends, who had somehow heard about the family rift, even from her father's colleague on the hospital board, Savannah remained calm and consistent in her responses. She wasn't trying to create drama. She was simply hosting Christmas at her home for those who wanted to attend. What surprised her most was how many people seemed to understand her position. Relatives she hadn't been close to expressed sympathy about how she'd been treated. Friends of the family made comments that suggested they'd always noticed the disparity in how she and Travis were regarded. The narrative was shifting, and for the first time, Savannah wasn't being cast as the difficult, overly independent daughter. She was being seen as someone who had finally stood up for herself after years of quiet acceptance. With just 2 weeks until Christmas, Savannah threw herself into preparations for her holiday gathering. The main house was transformed with tasteful decorations. Garlands of fresh pine draped along the massive staircase, twinkling lights illuminating the wraparound porch, and a 12-foot Christmas tree in the great room adorned with ornaments her grandmother had collected over decades. She worked with the local catering company to plan menus that would accommodate everyone's preferences and dietary restrictions. She arranged for sleigh rides around the property, scheduled a local choir to perform Christmas carols on Christmas Eve, and prepared welcome baskets for each guest room and yurt. In the midst of these preparations, an unexpected call came from her mother's sister, Aunt Caroline, who had initially declined the invitation, citing a prior commitment to attend Eleanor's Christmas Eve dinner. Savannah dear, I've been thinking about your invitation and I've changed my mind. If the offer still stands, Mark and I would love to come to the ranch. Surprised but pleased, Savannah assured her aunt that they were absolutely welcome. What about Mom's dinner? She asked cautiously. Caroline was silent for a moment. Eleanor and I had a discussion yesterday. About you. About how you've been treated over the years. Oh, Savannah's heart beat faster. I've always seen it, you know, Caroline continued. The difference in how they treated you and Travis. I've mentioned it to Eleanor before, but she always dismissed me. Said I was imagining things, or that you preferred it that way, being independent. Savannah sat down, unprepared for this conversation. When she called to complain about your Christmas gathering stealing her guests, I finally told her exactly what I thought. That perhaps if they had treated you with the same consideration they've always shown, Travis, you wouldn't feel the need to create your own separate holiday. What did she say? Savannah asked, almost afraid to hear the answer. She denied it, of course. Got defensive. But I think maybe it hit home a little. She was quiet afterward in a way that was unusual for her. Caroline paused. Anyway, I decided that this year I want to spend Christmas with my niece, who has never been given the appreciation she deserves from her own parents. After that call, Savannah sat on the porch swing wrapped in her grandmother's old quilt, contemplating this unexpected development. All these years she had thought no one else noticed the disparity in treatment. She had assumed she was alone in her perception, even wondering sometimes if she was overreacting or being too sensitive. To hear her aunt confirm what she had always felt was both vindicating and profoundly sad. The next surprise came when the family of one of her horse therapy students reached out to ask if they could contribute to the Christmas celebration. Soon, other families from the program followed suit, offering to bring traditional dishes, help with decorations, or provide entertainment. What had begun as Savannah's solitary stand was evolving into a genuine community celebration. 5 days before Christmas, she received an email from her cousin Michael, who was scheduled to arrive with his family on the 23rd. Attached was a video file with the subject line, "You should see this." With trepidation, Savannah opened the file. It was a recording of a video call between several family members, apparently discussing the upcoming holiday plans. It had been recorded without the knowledge of the participants. Something Savannah would normally disapprove of, but she couldn't stop herself from watching. On screen were her parents Travis and Meredith, and her father's brother Uncle James with his wife Aunt Deborah. They were discussing the mass defection to Savannah's Christmas gathering. "I don't understand why everyone is choosing her ranch over our tradition," her mother was saying, clearly distressed. "We've hosted Christmas Eve dinner for 20 years. Maybe because Savannah's never hosted before and people are curious about the ranch," Uncle James suggested reasonably. "It's more than that," Travis interjected. "She's deliberately trying to upstage us because she's angry about not being invited to our Christmas Day." "Wait," Aunt Deborah looked confused. "You didn't invite Savannah to Christmas. Why not?" There was an uncomfortable silence before Eleanor replied, "We wanted something small this year. Just Richard and I, Travis and Meredith." "But Savannah is your daughter," Uncle James said slowly. "How is she not included in a small family Christmas?" "It's complicated," Richard said dismissively. "Savannah has always been different. Independent. She has her own life at that ranch. The ranch she only has because Mom played favorites," Travis added bitterly. "Is that what this is really about?" Uncle James asked. "You're still upset about Abigail leaving the ranch to Savannah. It should have been divided equally," Richard insisted. "Or at least left to me, her son, to decide how to distribute it." "Abigail was very clear about her wishes," Uncle James reminded him. "And you know why she made that decision, Richard?" "What does that mean?" Meredith asked, looking between the brothers. Uncle James looked uncomfortable. "It's not my place to say." "No, James, go ahead," Richard challenged. "Since you seem to know so much about my mother's motivations." Uncle James sighed. "Abigail saw how you and Eleanor treated Savannah compared to Travis. She told me more than once that she was leaving the ranch to Savannah because she knew you'd never give her a fair share of anything otherwise." Savannah paused the video, her hand trembling. Her grandmother had seen the truth all along and had made her decision accordingly. It wasn't just about their special bond, it was a deliberate correction of an injustice. She continued the video, watching as her father's face flushed with anger. "That's absurd," he snapped. "We've always treated both our children equally." "Have you though?" Aunt Deborah asked gently. "Because from an outside perspective, it's never seemed that way to us." "What's that supposed to mean?" Eleanor demanded. "It means," Uncle James said carefully, "that we've all seen the difference over the years. Travis gets the celebration, the attention, the support. Savannah gets, well, expectations of self-sufficiency and independence." "You don't know what you're talking about," Richard dismissed him. "I think he does," Meredith said unexpectedly. All heads turned toward her. I've only been in this family for 6 months, and even I can see it. You talk about Travis constantly, but you barely mention Savannah, unless it's to comment on how she does her own thing, or doesn't need anyone. The video continued for several more minutes with her parents becoming increasingly defensive, and the others more direct in their observations. It ended abruptly, likely when someone realized they were being recorded. Savannah sat back, emotions washing over her in waves. There was vindication in hearing others acknowledge what she had experienced for so long. But there was also a deep sadness that her parents still couldn't, or wouldn't, see the truth of their behavior. As she continued with the final preparations for her Christmas gathering, a sense of peace began to settle over her. For years, she had sought her parents' approval and equal treatment, never quite believing she deserved it. Now she was creating something beautiful and meaningful on her own terms, surrounded by people who chose to be with her. The last call before Christmas came from an entirely unexpected source. Meredith. Savannah, it's Meredith. I hope I'm not overstepping, but I wanted to talk to you directly. Of course, Savannah replied, curious about her sister-in-law's reason for calling. After that family call the other day, I've been thinking a lot about everything. About how you've been treated. Meredith paused. I want you to know that I never intended to contribute to you feeling excluded. When Travis and I discussed Christmas with your parents, they presented it as something you wouldn't be interested in anyway. I see, Savannah said, the familiar phrase, now carrying new weight. I'm beginning to understand that's not the full story, Meredith continued. And I'm sorry for my part in it. As the sun set on December 22nd, Savannah stood on the porch of the ranch house, looking out at the pristine snow covering the rolling hills of her property. Tomorrow, her guests would begin arriving. The house would be filled with laughter, conversation, and the warmth of genuine connection. For the first time in her life, she wasn't an afterthought in someone else's celebration. She had created her own table, just as her grandmother had advised, and invited those who truly saw her. I know this story has you on the edge of your seat. If you're loving this family drama, hit that like button right now and subscribe for more incredible stories like this one. Let me know in the comments if you've ever experienced family dynamics like Savannah's. I read every comment. Now let's see what happens when her guests start arriving. On the morning of December 23rd, Savannah woke with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. The catering staff arrived early, setting up in the expansive kitchen. The ranch hands had cleared the driveways and paths of snow, and the 5 luxury yurts, complete with heating, plumbing, and comfortable furnishings, stood ready for guests who couldn't fit in the main house's 8 bedrooms. The first to arrive were her college friends, Emma and Daniel, with their twin daughters. The girls immediately ran to the window to see the horses in the paddock, their excitement infectious. This place is even more beautiful than you described, Emma said, embracing Savannah. Thank you for including us in your Christmas. Throughout the day, more guests arrived. Cousins with their children, her father's brother James, and his wife Deborah, colleagues from her architectural firm, families from her horse therapy program. By evening, 28 people had settled into the ranch, with more expected the following day. Dinner that first night was casual. A hearty beef stew, fresh bread, and apple pie served in the great room with its roaring fireplace. The conversation flowed easily, with no awkward questions about why Savannah wasn't spending the holiday with her parents. It seemed everyone either knew or sensed it was a topic best avoided. After dinner, the children were entertained with Christmas movies in the media room, while the adults gathered for mulled wine and conversation. Savannah found herself in a corner with her Uncle James. I suspect you've seen that video Michael recorded, he said without preamble. Savannah nodded, unsurprised that he'd figured it out. James had always been perceptive. I want you to know that what I said that day, about how your parents have treated you over the years, I should have said it directly to them long ago. He looked genuinely regretful. We all saw it happening, but it was easier to stay silent, to not rock the boat. "It's not your responsibility," Savannah assured him. "Perhaps not, but we're family. When we see injustice, we should speak up." He smiled at her. "Your grandmother certainly did. She was so proud of you, Savannah. Not just for your accomplishments, but for the person you are despite how you've been treated." The next day brought more arrivals, including Aunt Caroline and Uncle Mark, who embraced Savannah with unusual warmth. Caroline pulled her aside almost immediately. "Eleanor called yesterday," she said quietly. "She wanted to know if I was really choosing your gathering over her dinner." "And what did you tell her?" Savannah asked, bracing herself. "I told her the truth. That I was going where I felt welcome, and where long overdue recognition was being given." Caroline squeezed her hand. She didn't take it well, but sometimes the truth is uncomfortable. Christmas Eve dawned bright and clear, perfect for the outdoor activities Savannah had planned. After a breakfast buffet, guests broke into groups. Some went horseback riding with experienced ranch hands as guides. Others tried cross-country skiing across the rolling hills, while the less adventurous gathered in the kitchen for a cookie decorating workshop led by the local baker Savannah had hired. Midday brought an unexpected visitor. A delivery truck arrived, and the driver unloaded a large package addressed to Savannah. The return address was from Meredith. Curious, Savannah opened it to find a beautiful hand-knitted throw blanket in shades of blue and green. The attached note read, "Savannah, I made this before I fully understood the family dynamics. I hope it still finds a place in your home. Wishing you a wonderful Christmas. Meredith." The gesture moved Savannah deeply. It represented acknowledgement without expectation, something she had rarely experienced from anyone connected to her immediate family. As evening approached, everyone gathered in the great room for the arrival of the local choir. 20 singers in traditional attire performed a selection of Christmas carols while guests sipped hot chocolate and eggnog. The children sat mesmerized on the floor, occasionally joining in with familiar choruses. After the performance, Savannah was surprised when cousin Michael approached her with his phone. "You should see this," he said, showing her a social media post from her mother. It was a photo of her parents' Christmas Eve dinner, elegantly set table with perhaps a dozen guests, far fewer than the usual crowd. Eleanor's caption read, "Intimate Christmas Eve with dear friends and family. Missing those who couldn't join us this year." The comments below were telling. Several people had asked where Savannah was. One had pointedly written, "Heard everyone's at Savannah's ranch this year." Instead, Eleanor hadn't responded to any of these comments. "Appearances still matter more than honesty," Savannah murmured, handing the phone back to Michael. The evening concluded with a magnificent dinner served in the converted barn, which had been transformed with twinkling lights, evergreen garlands, and tables set with Abigail's fine china. A local string quartet played softly as everyone enjoyed the gourmet meal. When Savannah stood to offer a toast, she was overcome with emotion looking at the faces around her, people who had chosen to be there, who valued her enough to change their holiday traditions. "To new beginnings," she said, simply raising her glass. "And to chosen family." The night ended with guests gathering around the outdoor fire pit, sharing stories and laughter under a sky brilliant with stars. As Savannah looked around at the scene, children roasting marshmallows, couples nestled together under blankets, friends engaged in animated conversation, she felt a sense of belonging she had rarely experienced with her own parents and brother. Christmas morning brought fresh snow and excited children racing downstairs to see what Santa had brought. Savannah had ensured that every child attending had a personalized gift waiting along with thoughtful presents for the adults. The great room was soon filled with discarded wrapping paper, delighted exclamations, and the warm chaos of a true family Christmas. Mid-morning, as everyone was enjoying a lavish breakfast buffet, Savannah's phone rang. It was Travis. "Merry Christmas," she answered, stepping into the quiet of her study. "Is Meredith there?" he asked without returning the greeting, his voice tense. Savannah frowned. No, why would she be? She left this morning. Said she needed some air. Her car's gone and she's not answering her phone. There was genuine worry in his voice. I thought maybe. She sent me a gift, Savannah offered. A beautiful throw blanket she knitted, but I haven't heard from her otherwise. Travis was silent for a moment. A blanket, she's been working on that for months. She said it was for her mother. The implication hung between them. Meredith had intended the thoughtful, time-consuming gift for Savannah all along, not as a last-minute peace offering. I'm sure she's fine, Savannah said gently. Maybe she just needed some space. After they hung up, Savannah rejoined her guests, pushing the conversation to the back of her mind. The day continued with sledding on the hill behind the barn, a massive snowball fight that spanned generations, and quiet moments by the fire, with good books and better company. It was mid-afternoon when the security system alerted them to a car approaching. Savannah checked the camera feed and felt her stomach tighten. It was her parents' Mercedes with Travis in the passenger seat. "Everything okay?" Uncle James asked, noticing her expression. "My parents and Travis are here," she said quietly. James squeezed her shoulder. "Want me to run interference?" Savannah shook her head. "No, I need to handle this myself." She met them at the front door before they could ring the bell. Her mother looked as polished as ever in a cashmere coat, her father stern in his winter attire, Travis uncomfortable between them. "Merry Christmas," Savannah said evenly. "This is unexpected." "Is Meredith here?" Travis asked immediately. "No, she's not," Savannah replied. "As I told you on the phone." "May we come in?" her father asked, more a demand than a request. "It's freezing out here." Savannah hesitated only briefly before stepping aside. "Of course." As they entered the grand foyer, her mother looked around critically. "So this is what you've done with the place?" "Yes," Savannah replied, simply not taking the bait. "Can I get you something? Coffee, tea? There's plenty of food." "We're not here to socialize," her father said brusquely. "We're looking for Meredith. She left without explanation this morning, and we've been driving around for hours trying to find her." "She's still not answering her phone," Travis added, his worry evident. Before Savannah could respond, Aunt Caroline appeared in the hallway. "I thought I heard voices." "Eleanor Richard, what a surprise." Eleanor's smile was tight. "Caroline, I thought you had the flu. That's why you couldn't attend our dinner last night." Caroline didn't flinch. "Remarkable recovery. The mountain air agrees with me." The tension was palpable until Uncle James joined them, followed by several cousins curious about the new arrivals. Soon the foyer was crowded with relatives greeting Richard, Eleanor, and Travis with varying degrees of warmth. "Why don't we move this to the library?" Savannah suggested, leading the way to a quieter space. Once there, with just her immediate family and her aunt and uncle, the pretense dropped. "What exactly is going on here, Savannah?" her father demanded. "Half the family is at your Christmas party instead of our traditional dinner. Meredith disappears without explanation." "Are you trying to destroy our family?" Richard James said warningly, but Savannah raised a hand. "It's all right, Uncle James." She faced her father directly. "I'm not trying to destroy anything. I simply created a Christmas celebration where I felt welcome since I wasn't welcome at yours." "That's not true," her mother protested. "There was a misunderstanding." "Mom, please," Savannah interrupted gently. "There was no misunderstanding. You and Dad made a choice to exclude me from both your Christmas Eve dinner and your Christmas Day. I made my own choice in response. And somehow, that choice involved turning our entire family against us," her father said bitterly. "I didn't turn anyone against you," Savannah countered. "I sent invitations. People made their own decisions about where to spend their holiday. And everyone chose you over us," Travis said, his tone accusing but also confused. "Why would they do that?" It was Caroline who answered, her voice gentle but firm. "Because Savannah has been overlooked in this family for far too long, Travis. People saw an opportunity to show her the appreciation and recognition she deserves." "That's ridiculous," Eleanor scoffed. Savannah has always been independent, always done her own thing. We've respected that. No, Mom, Savannah said quietly. You've used independent as an excuse to give me less attention, less support, less love than Travis. You've called it respecting my nature when it was really just emotional neglect. Her father's face flushed with anger. How dare you accuse us of neglect? We gave you everything. You gave me things, Savannah corrected him. When what I needed was to be treated like I mattered as much as Travis does. This is absurd. Richard looked to his brother for support. James, surely you don't believe this narrative that we've somehow mistreated Savannah. James met his gaze steadily. I've watched it happen for 34 years, Richard. We all have. The difference in how you treat your children has always been obvious to everyone except you and Eleanor. A heavy silence fell over the room. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. Whether from genuine remorse or frustration at being contradicted, Savannah couldn't tell. Travis looked shell-shocked as if he was seeing his family dynamic clearly for the first time. The tense moment was broken by the sound of a car door closing outside. Travis moved quickly to the window. It's Meredith, he said, with evident relief. Moments later, Meredith entered, cheeks flushed from the cold, carrying a shopping bag. She stopped abruptly when she saw the gathered family. What's happening? Is everything okay? Where have you been? Travis demanded, though his relief outweighed his anger. We've been worried sick. Meredith looked confused. I left a note on the kitchen counter. I went to pick up some things from the store and then drove around for a while. I needed some time to think. She glanced at Savannah. I see you got my gift. It's beautiful, Savannah said sincerely. Thank you. You've been making that for months, Travis said. You told me it was for your mother. Meredith's expression softened. I'm sorry I lied, Travis. But after hearing how your family has treated Savannah all these years, I couldn't bear to be part of excluding her from Christmas. I wanted her to have something personal from me, to know that not everyone in your family sees her as an afterthought. The blunt assessment hung in the air. Eleanor seemed to physically shrink, while Richard's jaw tightened. I think, Meredith continued looking at Travis, that we need to really examine the family dynamic you've grown up with. Because from an outsider's perspective, it's not healthy, and it's not fair to Savannah. The confrontation in the library marked a turning point. After a tense but necessary conversation during which both Eleanor and Richard struggled to defend their treatment of Savannah over the years, the family reached an uneasy truce. They agreed to join the Christmas celebration at the ranch for the remainder of the day, though the atmosphere was strained. Savannah introduced her parents and Travis to her guests, watching with a mixture of sadness and vindication as they witnessed firsthand the warmth and genuine affection people had for her. These were relationships she had built on her own connections that had nothing to do with the Calloway name or her parents' standing in the community. By dinner, her father had grown quiet and observant, his earlier anger replaced by something resembling contemplation. Eleanor, always conscious of appearances, made a visible effort to engage with Savannah's friends and the families from her therapy program, though her smile never quite reached her eyes. It was Travis who surprised Savannah the most. After dinner, he sought her out on the porch where she had gone for a moment of solitude. This is really something, he said, gesturing toward the property bathed in moonlight. What you've built here. Thank you, she replied cautiously. I never realized. He began, then stopped. I never thought about how different things were for us growing up. It was just normal to me. I know, Savannah said. It wasn't your fault, Travis. But I participated in it, he said, meeting her gaze directly. I accepted the preferential treatment as my due. I never questioned why you weren't invited to Christmas this year. I just went along with it. His honesty was unexpected and moving. We can't change the past, Savannah told him. But we can be more mindful going forward. Travis nodded. Meredith helped me see things differently. She's been pointing out the imbalance since she met the family. I didn't want to hear it at first. "She's good for you," Savannah said, with genuine warmth. The evening concluded with all the guests gathering for a dessert buffet and a gift exchange. Savannah had prepared small tokens of appreciation for everyone. Personalized ornaments, local honey from the ranch's hives, handcrafted soaps from a nearby artisan. The atmosphere was festive and warm despite the undercurrent of tension with her immediate family. As the night drew to a close, her parents prepared to leave. Eleanor hesitated by the door, then embraced Savannah stiffly. "This was enlightening," she said, her voice carefully controlled. Her father nodded formally. "Thank you for including us despite the circumstances." It wasn't an apology or an acknowledgement of the years of disparate treatment, but it was perhaps a beginning. Travis and Meredith opted to stay the night, accepting Savannah's offer of the blue guest room. "We'd like to spend more time getting to know your friends," Meredith explained with a meaningful glance at Travis. After her parents left, Savannah found herself sitting by the fire with Aunt Caroline and Uncle James. "They may never fully admit it, you know," Caroline said gently. "Some people aren't capable of that kind of self-reflection." "I know," Savannah replied. "I'm not expecting a dramatic transformation. Just maybe a little more awareness." "What you did here." James gestured around at the gathering. "It was brave. Standing up for yourself, creating something beautiful on your own terms, instead of continuing to accept less than you deserve. Grandmother would be proud," Caroline added, squeezing her hand. The next day, most of the guests departed with warm hugs and promises to keep in touch more regularly. Travis and Meredith were among the last to leave. "We'd like to come visit more often," Meredith said as they stood on the porch, "if that's all right with you." "I'd like that," Savannah replied, surprised to find she meant it. Travis hugged her awkwardly. "I'm sorry, Sav. For a lot of things." "It's a start," she told him with a small smile. January brought an unexpected email from her mother. It was brief but significant. "Your father and I have been doing some thinking. We'd like to have dinner with you sometime soon, just the three of us. There are things we should discuss." Savannah agreed to meet them at a neutral location, a restaurant halfway between her ranch and their home. The dinner was initially uncomfortable with stilted conversation about safe topics. But after the main course, her father cleared his throat. "Your mother and I have been talking a lot since Christmas," he began, "and consulting with a family therapist." Savannah nearly choked on her water. "You're seeing a therapist?" "Yes," her mother confirmed, looking slightly defensive. "It was recommended by a friend." "We've been confronting some uncomfortable truths," her father continued. "About our parenting, about the differences in how we treated you and Travis. It's not easy to admit," Eleanor added, "but we recognize now that we did favor Travis. It wasn't intentional, but that doesn't make it any less real or harmful." Why? Savannah asked the question she had carried her entire life. Why was it so hard to love us equally? Her parents exchanged glances. "That's what we're trying to understand," Richard said finally. "Part of it might be that Travis was needier, more demanding of attention. You were always so capable, so self-sufficient. But we mistook that self-sufficiency, which you developed because you had to, as a preference for independence," Eleanor added. "We used it as an excuse to give you less." "The therapist has helped us see that," Richard said. "It's not an excuse, and we're not asking for immediate forgiveness. But we want you to know that we're working to understand and change." It wasn't a perfect resolution. There were decades of hurt that couldn't be erased with a single conversation. But it was a beginning, acknowledgement that felt like the first truthful exchange they had ever had about their family dynamic. Over the following months, they continued to meet regularly. Sometimes the conversations were productive. Other times they ended in tears or frustrated silence. But they persisted slowly, building a more honest relationship. Travis and Meredith became regular visitors to the ranch, especially after they announced they were expecting a baby in the fall. "We want our child to have a close relationship with their aunt," Meredith told Savannah. to know how special you are. The next Christmas, Savannah hosted an even larger gathering at the ranch. This time her parents were on the guest list from the start, and they accepted without hesitation. The relationship remained a work in progress, with old patterns occasionally resurfacing, but the direction was clear. Standing on the porch on Christmas Eve, watching her extended family and friends laughing and celebrating inside, Savannah felt her grandmother's presence beside her. "You were right, grandmother," she whispered to the starlit sky. "I built my own table, invited those who truly see me, and somehow it helped others finally see me too." Savannah's journey from exclusion to empowerment had taught her that sometimes the greatest act of self-love is to stop accepting less than you deserve. In creating a celebration that honored her worth, she had not only found healing for herself, but had also created an opportunity for her family to begin addressing the imbalances of the past. It wasn't perfect, and some wounds might never fully heal, but it was a new beginning. One built on truth awareness and the possibility of genuine connection. What about you? Have you ever had to create boundaries with family members who couldn't see your worth? This story of family karma and justice resonated with me deeply, and I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments below. If you found Savannah's journey meaningful, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more stories about family dynamics and personal growth. Share this video with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to stand up for themselves and create their own traditions. Thank you so much for watching until the end, and remember, sometimes the family we choose is as important as the family we're born into.